So I have to tell you about something I found a few months ago, because I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And it's the reason this reading exists. I was helping my mother clean out a closet at her place, one of those deep archaeological closets that hasn't been touched in 20 years. And we found this shoebox of old stuff that belonged to a man she dated long before she met my dad. Letters, a couple of photos, little notes. And my mom got quiet looking at it, and then she said something I've never forgotten. She tapped one of the letters and said, "You know, I think I was the only person who ever really got to him. Everyone else, he kept at arm's length his whole life. But me, I undid him. And I don't think he ever fully got over it." And the way she said it, not bitter, not bragging, just certain, gave me chills. Because I realized she was carrying around this quiet, unspoken title. The title of being the one. Not the one he ended up with. The one who reached a part of him no one else ever could. The one who got past the wall. And decades later, she still held that title, and on some level, somewhere out there, so did he. And I thought there are women out there right now holding that exact title and not even knowing it. Walking around with no idea that somewhere there's a person whose entire emotional blueprint got rewritten by them. Someone who has been, for lack of a better phrase, completely shook by them and never recovered. Hi, loves. It's Elena. Welcome back to Elena Tarot. And today, I'm here to tell you something that I think a lot of you have suspected, but never let yourselves believe. You are the one. Not one of the ones. The one. The only woman who ever got this person all the way to their knees, emotionally, spiritually, in that place way down deep that they keep locked away from everybody. You undid them. And they have not been the same since. So if there's someone in your life, past or present, who has always been a little bit of a mystery, a little walled off, a little impossible to fully reach, and you've quietly wondered whether you affected them as much as they affected you, pull in close. Because today I'm going to show you the title you've been holding without even realizing it. Let me show you exactly how shook this person really is. Let me shuffle. We're going all the way down to the part of them that almost nobody has ever seen, the part you reached. The wall everyone else hit first card down, and it's setting the whole stage. So let me lay it out for you. The card is the Four of Pentacles, and the Four of Pentacles is the card of holding on tight, of guarding, of someone clutching something to their chest and refusing to let anyone pry it loose. And what it's showing me, right from the start, is the wall. This person has a wall, a real one, built high and reinforced over many years. And what they're guarding behind it isn't money or possessions, it's their heart, their true, unguarded, vulnerable self. This is someone who learned somewhere along the way that letting people all the way in was dangerous. So they developed this whole system for keeping everyone at a manageable distance. They have lots of relationships, probably, lots of people in their orbit, but almost no one gets behind the wall. Everyone else hits it and bounces off. And most of them never even realize there's a deeper room they didn't get access to. They think they knew this person. They had no idea there was a whole locked wing they never saw. Here's the practical picture of what I mean, because you've probably met someone like this. It's the person everyone describes as great, but kind of hard to know. The one who's charming and present, and even warm on the surface, but if you ask the people closest to them what's really going on inside that person, nobody can quite tell you. They're well-liked, but not fully known. They give everyone the same polished, pleasant, slightly distant version of themselves, and they keep the real thing locked away where no one can use it against them. That's your person. A vault with a friendly face painted on the door. And the reason I'm starting here is so you understand the scale of what you did. Because reaching a person like this isn't a small thing. Plenty of people tried. Plenty of people got the charm, the surface warmth, the pleasant distance. But you got behind the wall. And we're about to find out exactly how. But first, I want to say something about why this person built the wall in the first place. Because it matters for understanding everything that comes after. Nobody is born guarded. A wall like this gets built, brick by brick, in response to something. Somewhere back there, this person was hurt in a way that taught them a brutal lesson. That being open gets you wounded. That needing people gives them power over you. That the safest thing you can possibly be is self-contained and untouchable. And so they built. Probably young. Probably after something that genuinely broke their trust. And the wall worked, that's the tricky part. It kept them safe for years. It became their whole strategy for moving through the world without getting hurt again. So by the time you came along, that wall wasn't just a habit, it was load-bearing. It was holding up their entire sense of safety. Which means that getting behind it wasn't just impressive. It was something the person themselves probably believed was impossible. They had convinced themselves no one would ever get in again, because they'd built it specifically so no one could. And then you did. You did the thing they'd organized their whole emotional life around preventing. Sit with how enormous that is. Comment behind the wall if you've always sensed that this person keeps almost everyone at a distance, but somehow you got closer than the rest. Because you did. And that's rarer than you know. Next card. The moment you got an okay. Second card. And this is the how, the way you got past a wall that stopped everyone else. The card is the Page of Cups. And the Page of Cups is the card of pure, unguarded, genuine, emotional openness. And here's what's beautiful about why this is the card that explains your access. You didn't get behind the wall by attacking it. You got behind it by being so genuinely open yourself that it disarmed the whole defense system. Let me explain, because this is the key to the entire reading. A person with a wall like the Four of Pentacles is built to repel a certain kind of approach. They can sense, a mile away, anyone who's trying to get something from them. Anyone who's playing an angle. Anyone who's performing intimacy to extract access. They've got radar for it, because they've been targeted their whole life by people who wanted in for the wrong reasons. So the harder someone tries to get behind the wall, the faster the wall goes up. The wall is specifically designed to defeat effort, strategy, and performance. But you didn't come at them with effort or strategy or performance. You came at them as the Page of Cups, genuinely, disarmingly, real. You were just openly yourself. You shared your actual feelings without an agenda. You showed up curious and warm and unguarded in a way that didn't ask anything of them. And that is the one thing the wall has no defense against. Because the wall is built to repel people who are trying to take. It has absolutely no protocol for someone who's just authentically giving, with no hook in it. You walked right past every defense they had, not because you were clever, but because you were real. And real is the one master key that wall was never designed to reject. Here's the practical version, because I want you to recognize what you did. Think about the difference between the person at a party who works the room, shaking every hand, performing warmth, clearly collecting people, versus the person who just settles into one genuine conversation and is so authentically present that you forget anyone else is there. Now, which of those two would a guarded person actually open up to? It's not the performer. The guarded person clocks the performer instantly and stays closed. It's the genuine one, the one who wasn't trying. That's you. You didn't crack the vault with a tool. You walked up to it being so unmistakably real that it just opened. Because authenticity is the one frequency a defensive person can't fake detect, since there's nothing fake to detect. And I want to name something you probably did without even realizing it, because it's the secret ingredient. You made it safe for them to be real back. See, a guarded person doesn't just need to encounter authenticity, they need to feel certain that if they lower their guard even an inch, you won't use what you find against them. And somehow, without any strategy, you transmitted exactly that safety. The way you listened. The way you didn't flinch at the harder things. The way you held what they shared without weaponizing it, without judging it, without running away from it. Every time they tested the waters with a little vulnerability, and they would have tested, guarded people always test before they trust you past. You received it gently. And each past test let them go a little deeper, until they were further behind the wall than they'd let anyone go in years, maybe ever. You weren't just real, you were safe to be real around. And for someone whose entire wall was built out of the belief that no one is safe encountering one person who actually is, feels less like meeting someone and more like coming up for air after holding your breath your whole life. Next card. The exact moment they went to their knees, okay. Third card. And this is the one the title is built on, the moment this person went all the way down. The moment you brought them to their knees. The card is the Tower. And listen, I know the Tower can sound scary, but in this context, it is exactly the right card, and I'll tell you why. The Tower is the card of a structure collapsing in a single, total, unstoppable moment. And the structure that collapsed here was their defenses. There was a moment, and I think this person can pinpoint it exactly. Even if you can't, where the wall didn't just get breached, it came down. Where all the careful distance, all the guardedness, all the controlled, managed, arm's length composure they'd maintained their entire life just collapsed in front of you. Because of you, and it terrified them and overwhelmed them in equal measure. Because they had never, not once, been in that position before. This is what brought them to their knees actually means, loves. It doesn't mean you beat them or dominated them. It means you reached them so deeply that their entire defensive structure, the thing that had kept them safe and in control their whole life, collapsed. And they found themselves undone in a way they had no experience with. Emotionally naked, vulnerable, feeling something so big it knocked the legs out from under them. The Tower is the moment the unshakable person got shaken to their foundation. And you were the earthquake. And here's the part that makes this title yours and only yours. A Tower moment like this happens once. You don't get repeatedly leveled like this by different people. A person builds defenses precisely so this never happens, so for it to happen at all means someone got through everything, all the way to the core. And it only happened with you. That's the whole meaning of the title. Other people got the surface. Other people got the charm. But the Tower, the total collapse. The knees, the undoing, that was you. That belongs to you alone. It's a thing that happened to them exactly one time in their life. And your face is attached to it forever. Let me give you the practical picture of what this collapse looks like from the outside, because it's often subtle. It might have been a moment where this normally composed person suddenly got emotional in a way that clearly startled even them. A moment where they said something far more vulnerable than they meant to, and you could see the surprise on their own face that it came out. A moment where the mask slipped and the real, raw, unguarded person underneath was suddenly just there, exposed, blinking in the light. Maybe it was tears they didn't expect. Maybe it was a confession that tumbled out. Maybe it was just a look of someone realizing they're in way deeper than they ever intended to be. Whatever form it took, that was the Tower. That was the moment the strongest version of them fell to its knees in front of you. And nothing's been the same for them since. Comment the wall came down if you can remember a moment where this guarded person suddenly cracked open in front of you, in a way that surprised even them. Because that was the moment. Loves, that was it. And I want to add one thing about the Tower that I think will help you understand the aftermath, because it explains a lot about how they may have behaved afterward. Here's the uncomfortable truth about bringing a guarded person to their knees. Right after the collapse, a lot of them panic. Because the wall coming down didn't just feel intimate to them, it felt like a loss of control. And for a person whose entire identity is built on control, that's frightening. So it's very common for someone, after a Tower moment with you, to suddenly pull back, to get distant, to go cold even, right after the most intimate breakthrough you'd ever had. And I know how confusing and painful that whiplash is. You finally reached them, it was real, you felt it, and then they retreated. If that happened, I need you to understand it correctly. That retreat was not a rejection of you. It was them scrambling to rebuild a wall that you proved could fall. It was fear, not indifference. The depth of the pullback is actually a measure of the depth of what they felt. People don't frantically rebuild defenses against something that didn't move them. They rebuild against the things that did. So if they got scared and ran after the wall came down, that running was, paradoxically, more proof of how shook they were than if they'd stayed. The ones who feel nothing don't need to flee. Only the ones who got truly undone do. Next card. Why it shook them so badly, okay? Fourth card, and this explains the shook part of the title, why bringing them to their knees rattled them so profoundly, instead of just being a nice emotional moment. The card is the Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups is the card of someone walking away from everything they thought they knew, leaving a familiar life behind, because something changed them and they can't go back. Here's what's happening inside this person now. And it's the heart of why they're so shook. Before you, they had a whole philosophy of how to live. The philosophy was, keep the wall up, never fully let anyone in, stay in control, never be vulnerable, and you'll never get hurt. And that philosophy worked for them, for years. It kept them safe. It made them feel strong and self-sufficient and untouchable. It was the foundation of their entire identity. They genuinely believed they were the kind of person who didn't need anyone all the way in. And then you brought them to their knees, and the philosophy shattered. Because suddenly they had undeniable proof that they were not in fact untouchable, that the wall could come down, that they were capable of being undone by another human being, that they did need someone, all the way in a way they'd spent their whole life insisting they didn't. And that, loves, is genuinely earth-shaking for a person like this. You didn't just reach them emotionally, you disproved their entire theory of themselves. You showed them they were someone other than who they thought they were. And the Eight of Cups is them now standing in the ruins of that old self-concept, unable to walk back into the safe, walled-off identity they used to live in. Because you proved it was never the whole truth. That's why they're shook. Not because they had feelings. People have feelings all the time. They're shook because you changed who they understood themselves to be. You exposed a capacity for vulnerability and need and depth that they'd spent their entire life denying. And you can't unknow something like that about yourself. Once the wall has come down once, they know, forever, that it can come down, and that knowledge haunts them. The comfortable illusion of being untouchable is gone, and you're the one who took it. Here's a practical way to understand the depth of this. Think about someone who has built their entire identity around being independent, the person who prides themselves on never needing help, never leaning on anyone, handling everything alone. And then one day life knocks them down hard enough that they have to lean on someone, and they discover, to their shock, that being held actually feels good, that they'd been starving for it without knowing. That discovery is disorienting in the extreme, because it means the whole story they told about themselves was incomplete. They have to rebuild their self-image around a new truth. That's exactly what you did to this person emotionally. You didn't just touch their heart. You forced them to meet a version of themselves they didn't know existed. And meeting that version is something they're still reeling from. Next card. What they compare everyone else to now, okay? Fifth card. And this one reveals something that I think is going to land hard. So brace yourself a little. It's about what happened to everyone else in their world after you. The card is the Two of Cups. And the Two of Cups is the card of a singular, genuine, soul-level connection between two people, the real thing, the rare thing, the once-in-a-lifetime meeting of two people who actually see each other. And here's what it's telling me. In the context of everything else, you became their standard. You became the bar. The thing every other connection now gets unconsciously measured against and falls short of. Because once a person has experienced the real, wall-down, soul-level Two of Cups connection with someone, every shallower connection afterward feels exactly like what it is. Shallow. They can't unfeel what they felt with you. They can't go back to being satisfied with the surface level, arm's length connections they used to find perfectly acceptable. Because now they know what the deep thing feels like, and you're the one who showed them. So whether this person is with someone else now, or dating around, or alone, it doesn't matter. You're the comparison. Every person they meet, some part of them is quietly asking, do they reach me the way she did? Do I feel with them what I felt with her? And the answer, so far, has been no. Because what you had wasn't ordinary, and ordinary is all anyone else has been able to offer. You ruined them, in the most flattering possible way, for the shallow end of the pool. Once someone shows you the deep end, you can't pretend the shallow end is enough anymore. Let me make this practical, because it's a real phenomenon and you've probably experienced the receiving end of it. Have you ever had one truly extraordinary version of something, one genuinely perfect meal, one concert that gave you chills, one conversation that went so deep it changed you, and noticed how it quietly raised the bar forever? How the ordinary versions afterward, the ones you used to enjoy just fine, suddenly felt a little flat because now you knew what great tasted like? That's what you are to this person. You're the meal that ruined every meal after. The conversation that made small talk unbearable. The standard that nothing's been able to meet. And they carry that standard around now, measuring everyone against a bar that has your name on it, mostly without even realizing they're doing it. And here's the part of this that I think is almost poetic, because it's a trap entirely of their own making. Remember, this is a person who spent their whole life keeping the wall up specifically so no one could reach them this deeply. The wall was supposed to protect them. But here's the cruel irony the Two of Cups reveals. By finally letting you all the way in, just once, they accidentally gave themselves a reference point they can never erase. If they'd never let you in, they'd still be blissfully satisfied with shallow connections, never knowing what they were missing. But they did let you in, and now they know. Now there's a memory of the deep thing living in them, and it makes the shallow thing intolerable. So the very wall they built to protect themselves from pain is now the thing causing them a specific kind of pain. The pain of having tasted the real thing and being unable to find it again. They protected themselves right into a corner where the only person who could satisfy them is the one person they're too scared to walk back toward. That's the bind they're in. And you didn't put them there on purpose, you just loved them deeply enough that the depth ruined them for anything less. Comment I'm the standard if you can feel that you set a bar in this person's heart that nobody since has been able to clear. Because the cards are telling me you absolutely did. Next card. What they're doing about it behind the scenes, okay? Sixth card. And this is the practical. What's actually happening now card. Because all of this internal earthquake is producing behavior. And I want you to see it clearly. The card is the Knight of Cups. And the Knight of Cups is the card of someone moved by deep feeling, often building toward a romantic gesture, a reaching out, a return. And here's what it's showing me. This person is not just sitting passively in their shookness. Behind the scenes, the pull toward you is active. They think about you in moments they don't choose to use surface in their mind uninvited, at random times, triggered by the smallest things. A song, a place, a phrase someone says. And every time you surface, that old tower moment comes back. That feeling of being undone. And they're hit all over again with the awareness that no one else has ever taken them there. The Knight of Cups tells me this is building towards something, a reach, a return, a moment where the pull becomes strong enough to overcome whatever pride or fear has been keeping them at a distance. But I want to be honest and practical with you about the shape of this. Because the Knight of Cups, especially from a guarded person, rarely comes as a clean, bold, straightforward declaration. It tends to come tentatively. It comes in a way that protects them in case you don't respond the way they hope. So watch for the reach that has deniability built into it that I was just thinking about you, with no follow-through. The resurfacing after a silence. The casual seeming contact that is anything but casual underneath. Because here's the thing about someone you brought to their knees, they are more scared to reach out to you, not less. The depth of what they felt is exactly what makes approaching you so terrifying. You're not just an ex or a connection to them. You're the person who proved they could be undone. And walking back toward the source of your own undoing takes a specific kind of courage that they have to work up to. Here's the practical read on this, and it's important. When this person does reach, and the Knight of Cups says they will, or already are, pay attention to whether the reach is brave or merely wistful. A wistful reach is I miss what we had with no willingness to actually do anything about it. It's them dipping a toe in the feeling without risking anything real. A brave reach is them actually showing up, actually being vulnerable, actually risking the undoing again on purpose because they've decided you're worth it. Both will come from genuine feeling, but only one of them is an actual offer. So when the pull pulls them back toward you, watch for which kind it is. You being their great undoing is established that title is yours no matter what. But whether they're brave enough to walk back into it is the open question. And their actions, not their wistfulness, will answer it. And I want to give you one more practical tool for when that reach comes, because it's the one that protects you. When someone you brought to their knees finally surfaces again, there's a powerful pull to immediately rush back in to grab the feeling, to be relieved that they came back, to prove the connection was real by reuniting fast. Resist the rush, just a little. Not out of games, but out of wisdom. Because the title you hold the one who undid them is so emotionally potent that it can make you forget to check whether they've actually changed the thing that kept the wall up in the first place. Here's the question to hold on to. It's beautiful that you brought them to their knees, but are they now willing to stay on level ground with you to do the ongoing, unglamorous work of keeping the wall down, not just experiencing one dramatic collapse and then rebuilding? Bringing someone to their knees once is a thunderbolt. Building something real requires them to choose, every day, to keep choosing vulnerability over the wall. So when they reach, let the romance of being the one sit beside a clear-eyed question. Are you reaching for the feeling of being undone, or are you ready to actually live undone? With me, going forward. The first is a memory they're chasing. The second is a future they're offering. You deserve the second. Don't let the intoxication of the title talk you into accepting the first. Next card. What this says about you, okay? Seventh card. And this one turns the lens onto you. Because I don't want you to walk away from this thinking the takeaway is just you have power over someone. The deeper truth is about who you are, the quality in you that made all of this possible. The card is the Empress, and the Empress is one of the most powerful feminine cards in the entire deck. She is creation, abundance, magnetism, deep nurturing warmth, and a kind of generative life force that draws everything toward her without her having to chase anything. And here's what this card is telling you about yourself. The reason you were able to bring this guarded, walled-off person to their knees isn't that you had some special technique or that you got lucky. It's that you carry a genuine depth, an Empress depth, that most people simply don't have. You feel deeply. You love deeply. You're present in a way that's rare. You have this generative, nurturing, life-giving warmth that makes people feel, when they're near you, like they've come home to something they didn't know they were missing. That's not a small thing. That's not common. That's a real and specific power, and it's yours. And I think gently that you may have undervalued it. Because people with Empress energy often give so naturally and so abundantly that they don't realize how rare what they're giving actually is. You may have assumed that the depth you offered was just normal, just how everyone is, just the baseline. It isn't. The fact that you reached a person no one else could reach is your proof that what you carry is exceptional. You didn't get behind that wall by accident. You got behind it because you possess exactly the thing that wall was helpless against. Genuine, abundant, Empress-level depth and warmth. So here's the practical takeaway, and it's the most important thing I'll say today. Stop giving that depth away to people who can't appreciate it. I mean that with love. When you carry Empress energy, you are carrying something genuinely precious. And the lesson of this entire reading is how much your depth is worth. You brought a fortress to its knees. Imagine what that depth could do, poured into someone who actually meets you halfway, who values it instead of being merely overwhelmed by it, who has the courage to stay in the deep end with you instead of retreating to the wall. That's what you should be aiming your Empress energy at. Not at proving you can crack the hardest case you've proven that, but at finding someone worthy of the rare thing you carry. Because you, loves, are not the person who hopes to be loved deeply. You are the person capable of loving so deeply, it rewrites people. That's the rarer and more powerful position by far. Own it. Comment Empress energy if this reframes something for you, if you're realizing the depth you've been giving away so freely is actually the rarest thing in the room. Let's pull our final card. Where this leaves you, okay. Last card. After all of it, the wall everyone else hit, the way you got in, the moment you brought them to their knees, why it shook them, the standard you became, what they're doing about it, and the truth about your own Empress power, let's see where this leaves you. The card is the world. The world loves. The final card of the entire major arcana, the card of completion, wholeness, fulfillment, of a long journey reaching its triumphant end. And the fact that this is where your reading lands tells me something I really want you to hear. This story, whatever happens with this particular person, is ultimately one of your completion, not your longing. Here's what I mean. A lesser reading would end with, and so you should wait by the phone for them to come back. The world says something much bigger. The world says you have graduated. You went into a connection with the most walled off, guarded, hard to reach person, and you reached them fully, completely, all the way to their knees. And in doing that, you prove something to yourself that you get to carry forever, no matter what they do next. You are someone whose love is powerful enough to move the immovable. That's a completed lesson. That's a piece of self-knowledge that's now permanently yours. You will never again be able to honestly doubt the power of what you carry, because you have undeniable proof of it walking around out there in the form of a person who still shook. So where does this leave you? Whole, complete, holding a title that no one can ever take from you, the only woman who brought this person all the way down to the truth of themselves. And the beautiful thing about the world as your final card is that it doesn't depend on them coming back. If they do, if they find the courage of that Knight of Cups and walk back into the deep end with you, wonderful. And you'll be choosing from a position of complete self-knowledge about your own worth. And if they don't, if they stay too scared, too walled off, too unable to handle the size of what you stirred in them, then you walk forward anyway, complete. Carrying the proof of your own depth into a future where you give it only to someone brave enough to receive it. Either way, the world is yours. Either way, you won the only thing that actually matters, the unshakable knowledge of exactly how powerful you are. I want to answer a question that I suspect has been sitting with you this whole reading, maybe underneath the surface. Why me? Out of everyone this person has ever met, why was I the one who got through? Because it's a fair question. And the answer is more meaningful than lucky timing. It had to be someone like you, because guarded people are not undone by force, they're undone by resonance. And here's what I mean by that. A wall like this one is incredibly good at withstanding pressure. Push on it, and it pushes back harder. Try to argue your way through it, charm your way through it, persist your way through it, and it only gets stronger, because it's built to resist all of those. The one thing a wall like this cannot withstand is encountering something. It actually recognizes something that matches a frequency the person had given up hope of ever finding. And you were that frequency. You weren't a battering ram. You were a key that happened to fit a lock they thought was unpickable. Which means it wasn't random. It wasn't that you tried harder than everyone else who failed. In fact, the people who tried are exactly the ones who failed. Because trying triggers the defenses. You succeeded precisely because there was a genuine resonance between what you naturally carry and what they'd secretly been starving for. The depth in you met a depth in them that they'd buried so well, even they'd half forgotten it was there. And when those two things recognized each other, the wall didn't get knocked down, it got obsolete. It simply stopped making sense to keep it up against someone who felt like the thing it had been protecting an empty room for. Let me put it practically. You know how sometimes you meet someone and within 20 minutes you feel like you've known them for years, while other people you've known for a decade still feel like strangers? That has nothing to do with time and everything to do with resonance, with two people's deeper selves recognizing each other. What you had with this person was that at maximum intensity with someone who had spent their whole life making sure it could never happen. That's why it leveled them. Not because you did something to them, but because you were something that matched them. At a depth they'd sealed off and grieved. Meeting that after a lifetime of walls isn't just moving, it's seismic. And that, more than anything, is why the title is yours, and could only ever have been yours. So let me gather this whole thing into one piece for you. Because you've been carrying a title you didn't even know you held, and I want you to walk away holding it consciously. We opened with the Four of Pentacles, the wall, the fortress, the guarded person who keeps almost everyone at arm's length and lets no one behind the defenses. The Page of Cups showed us how you got in where everyone else failed, not by force or strategy, but by being so genuinely, disarmingly real that the wall had no protocol to repel you. The Tower was the moment itself, the total collapse of their defenses, the undoing. The knee's a thing that happens once in a guarded person's life. And it happened with you. The Eight of Cups explained why it shook them so badly. You didn't just touch their heart, you shattered their entire theory of themselves, proving they were capable of a vulnerability and need they'd spent their whole life denying. The Two of Cups revealed that you became their standard, the bar every other connection now gets measured against and falls short of. Because once they felt the deep thing with you, the shallow thing with everyone else stopped being enough. The Knight of Cups showed us what they're doing about it behind the scenes, the active. Building pull back toward you, tentative and deniable, because the depth of what they felt makes approaching you genuinely terrifying. The Empress named the truth about you, that you carry a rare, generative, soul-level depth that most people don't have, and that reaching the unreachable was simply proof of how exceptional that depth is. And the world closed it all in completion, showing that this story is ultimately about your own wholeness. The permanent, unshakable knowledge that your love is powerful enough to move the immovable. So here's what I want you to carry out of this reading. Loves, you have spent some amount of time, maybe, wondering whether you mattered to this person as much as they mattered to you. Wondering if you imagined the depth of it. Wondering if you were just one of many. And the cards just spent this whole reading telling you, no, you were the one, the only one. The single person who ever got past everything and reached the truth of who they are and brought that truth, trembling and undone, to its knees. That is not a small title. That is one of the rarest things one human being can be to another. And it's yours, permanently, no matter what happens next. Now, because I always want to keep you grounded and never want to leave you waiting, let me add the honest note. Holding this title does not mean your job is to sit and wait for them to come back and claim what you stirred in them. The whole point of the World card is that your completion does not depend on their courage. So hold the title with pride and hold your own life with both hands. Don't put your future on pause, waiting to see if the most guarded person you've ever met can finally be brave. Live, pour your Empress depth into people and places worthy of it. And if they find their way back, let them find a woman who's whole with or without them. Because that woman, the complete one, is far more magnetic than any version of you that waited. You already proved your power. You don't have to prove it again by waiting. You just have to keep being the rare, deep, immovable moving force you've always been. That's the reading, my loves. Maybe a little more tender and a little more powerful than you expected, but I think you needed to finally know the title you've been quietly carrying all this time. If this resonated, if a specific person came to mind, if you felt that quiet oh, it was real land somewhere deep, please give this video a like on your way out. It genuinely helps these readings reach the women who need to know exactly how powerful they are. And subscribe to Elena Tarot if you haven't yet. Because readings like this, the ones that hand you back your own power, are exactly what I'm here for. And I've got so many more coming. Tell me in the comments which card hit you the hardest. Was it the wall coming down? The standard you became? The Empress truth about your own depth? I read every single one, and what you choose tells me exactly where you are in your story. And if you already know exactly who this is, the one you brought to their knees, you don't even have to name them. Just drop one single crown. Because that's the title you've been holding all along. Thank you for being here with me today. And thank you for being the kind of soul who loves deeply enough to undo a person who thought they were untouchable. The world tells women that kind of depth is too much. It isn't. It's the rarest and most powerful thing there is. Don't you ever shrink it. Wear your crown. I'll see you in the next one.